Hey people, this is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
season 4 of Better Let Me Tell You.
I've told you this several times, that if my parents were to have a reality show, my family,
Yes.
my mother would be the breakout star.
And,
the unintentional breakout star.
And watching Premios Lo Nuestro today with them pretty much solidified
I
it.
loved that you saw that.
It was like, it was in its organic, full, just nature. It
Yes.
just,
Yes.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
were some of your favorite highlights? Well, everybody, welcome to episode 144. Episode 144. Here we are.
Yes. So, as we're recording
Happy
this,
Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday, but we're recording this
on Fake Friday.
Fake Friday, which is Premios Lo Nuestro was on tonight, and I just happened to be here at Darian's house. His parents were here, and it was great because I hadn't seen a Premios Lo Nuestro in a while. So
Right.
and actually this year was like one of their more star-studded ones or whatever.
With audio commentary.
It was wonderful. It was like what I am almost positive would have been like watching it with like Joan Rivers,
Yeah.
but in Spanish.
Yeah. And, the Cuban version of it.
Right, because your parents, and I loved every minute of it, but I don't think there was anybody on there who they didn't have an opinion of.
Oh, of course not.
Regardless of whether they knew who they were or not.
Of course not, yeah.
Right, I think there was even like an usher in the background that they
What
had
were
an
some of your
opinion
favorite
about.
moments?
Oh, my favorite moments. Well, my favorite moments were, ay, que vieja está fulana.
Que vieja está Yuri, viste,
que
con
vieja
con esa pelambre.
Con esa-
And I'm like, Mom, she looks, she's in her late 50s.
Right.
She looks great. Like, what more do you want? Like, she's not going to look 25 because she's
And
not.
then, and then you have the flip side of like, ay, pero estos reggaetoneros vestidos tan ridículo, like, parecen unos payasos or whatever. It was everything I expected and more because there was that personal Borges touch.
Yes. I always say it. If we were to have a reality show, it wouldn't be me or like my cousins.
No.
It would be my mother. Because my mother, and everybody has that person in their family. Mm-hmm. The thing with my mom, I think that everybody has that person in their family that says a lot of crap.
Right.
The thing with my mom is that my mom is in total denial about it. She doesn't believe she's that person.
Your mother also, believe it or not, unintentionally has good timing.
Yes, she does. She has good comedic timing.
Yeah, because your mother's not trying to be funny when she says things, but she always it lands at the right moment.
Right. Yes, you're right. She does.
Yeah.
But you know how everybody in their family has that one person that always has opinions and
Right.
whatever. Right. The thing with my mom is that my mom, as I said, it's unintended. She is in denial about it. Like she's like, no, I'm not funny at all. I don't say funny things. I don't like humor. And it's like, but you know what I mean? Like, my mom. My mom's very straight, very
but that's what makes it hilarious when she says things. It's that thing of like,
no,
she doesn't think she's funny, so she's not trying to be funny.
Also, you could tell from the way her body language is, to the way she's looking at the TV, to what she says, that she is like oozing judgment.
It's genuine.
Yes.
Like, it's not an act. She's not trying. She's not trying to be funny.
So everybody, listeners, who I'm sure you all have that.
Maybe we should do a silent auction the next Spanish TV award show and just
watch it with my parents.
Yeah, and what you win is that you get to watch an award show with Darian's
my
parents from beginning to end,
for better or for worse.
You can live stream the whole thing. It'll be an experience.
My mom, she said, "Es un mavinga."
That was great.
When she was talking about,
I forgot who she was talking about.
Camilo.
Oh yeah.
Because Camilo's short.
Yeah.
And she's like, mira, eso es un mavinga. But it's just the way that the timing and the way she says it, and that it's dry. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, your mother should be British.
Yeah.
That's how dry her humor is.
So how is everybody? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. My God, we're almost, ya estamos por la mitad de febrero.
Yeah. No, past it. Ya, ahorita, mira.
Ya ahorita Halloween.
Ya, ahorita hay que sacar el arbolito.
Already? Shit.
Tú verás.
Can we list out my birthday first?
Oye, chico, mira, el arbolito keeps coming out every year earlier.
No,
and
that's
earlier.
true. Ahorita Memorial Day.
No, ahorita's gonna be after the 4th of July. Right. That's it. You know, we're in the latter end of summer.
Just don't set the tree on fire.
It's time to.
That's all I ask.
To just celebrate.
Put out
Christmas.
the tree. Bring the tree out.
Whatever. Anyway, so so actually, I wanted to, in this week's episode, well, actually, first of all, before we get into the real, some of the, topics we were.
Are you going to make a comment about my ensemble?
No, baby, you always look good.
Okay.
So, our hearts go out to to everybody, listener and non-listener in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That when this whole Texas thing started happening, I didn't pay much attention to it in the sense that I was like, oh,
it's a cold front.
That happened. Yeah, it's a really, really bad cold front. You got some
like
snow,
anywhere else, whatever.
Some inconvenience.
Right.
Like remember a few years ago when it snowed in Atlanta.
That everybody forgot how to drive.
Yeah, well, because it never snows in Atlanta, right? I thought it was something like that, but then
then it took a turn.
Yeah, it took a turn for like the worst.
Yeah,
and and we have listeners and very, very, very good friends out there. So to Leslie and Julio specifically, to everybody, but to them and specifically, they're very good friends.
Only because we know their names.
They're very good friends.
No, I'm saying they're friends of ours.
And they're very, very big listeners. We hope you're doing well.
If we knew all of your names, we'd say all of your names too. It'd be like,
but yeah, our hearts go out to the people in Texas. Like it really sucks. I mean, and the problem is that, which I'm sure a lot of people have been reading that, they're not. It's like if it snowed here, or like we got that here, we're not equipped for that weather.
Things would go bad very quickly.
I was hearing today that
the only difference I think, and I actually saw this on a Facebook post of somebody we went to high school with. She's in Austin, and she posted like a hey, we're okay, blah blah. And she's like, if there's one thing Floridians know how to do, it's prepare for an oncoming natural disaster.
That is true.
So if it would happen here, it would be crazy and it would go sideways 100%. But I feel like we'd apply that like hurricane thinking at some point, like before as it was about to happen,
and also we all have generators.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like,
well, we all have generators, but none of us have heaters.
Oh,
so.
That's the fly in the ointment, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I'm saying I was about to say, we all have generators, so just plug your heater in. But we don't have heaters.
We don't have heaters.
No.
You'd basically just be standing around the generator for heat.
Yeah. But then you can't do that because you get carbon monoxide poisoning.
It's always something.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Always something.
So, and also I was watching something today that there is an issue with like the sea turtles.
Yes, that's a big
that they've been trying to rescue the sea turtles because a lot of the water has frozen and they can't come up for air, so they're drowning. So they're trying to save as many sea turtles.
Yeah, some people have opened up their houses as like sanctuaries.
Can you imagine? You walk in and your garage is filled with turtles.
Okay, I will say that's the one thing that if it happens down here in South Florida, I am not turning my house into a sanctuary for the iguanas or for the crocodiles.
Sea turtles, I mean, we want to save the sea turtles, but imagina la peste que hay adentro.
Bueno, yeah.
That's such a funny Spanish word. From turtle in English to jigotea in Spanish. Mira esa jigotea. Because nobody says tortuga.
No, because tortuga's tortoise.
Right. Well, yes, that's true. But I feel that's one of those interchangeable words.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, well, the species is not. I mean, some people say tortuga generally to talk about a heavy person.
That's like in
but
that's like in Spanish. You very rarely hear somebody say un caimán.
Right.
It's cocodrilo.
Cocodrilo.
Alligator, crocodile,
God, that's
it's
so
cocodrilo.
true.
Yeah.
That's so true. Nobody says un caimán.
Nobody really says caimán.
Oh my gosh! Wait, the Cayman. Hold on, that's why their logo is a. Never mind.
Did you
edit that out?
Did you just fall from the tree?
Edit that out. Listen, I have 3 college degrees.
Did you
edit that out? Un caimán, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
A caimán is a crocodile.
Alligator.
An alligator. El cocodrilo. No, el cocodrilo is a crocodile.
Yeah.
You're right. Nobody says caimán.
Nobody says caimán.
Everybody says un cocodrilo.
Yeah.
But at least in English, people really do say
it's
alligator and crocodile.
Yes.
Right. It's very defined.
They use them specifically.
And then, I'd always be like, I don't know which one's which.
I know one has a blunter nose or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That's kind of like in Spanish, 60 and 70. I'm like, I don't know.
I saw you doing that earlier.
What, the 60 and 70?
Because you were telling your father, I think it was like Lucia Mendez's age or something, and you did not say 62. You said the whole sentence in Spanish, and you're like, sí, papá, porque aquí dice que ella tiene 62.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's because that happens to me.
I always
Because that
struggle.
happens to me too.
I always struggle. That's why when in Spanish, people are like, no, 60. No, the worst is when it's a phone number. Sí, ¿cuál es tu teléfono? 562 67 74.
Okay,
And I'm like,
first of all,
what?
Who is the Viking that is giving you a phone number like that? Okay,
Right, but
there's a rhythm to phone numbers.
Right, but I feel that is true. But I feel that like when they start throwing 60s and 70s at you in Spanish, they're all over the place, right?
yeah, you need a moment.
Yeah, it's like, wait, how many 60s are there and which one is it?
I totally
Okay, why do we do this in Spanish? Why couldn't we say, I don't know, something, another word? I know I'm not the only one that gets confused with 60 and 70.
I still get confused.
So it's 60
Y 70.
Y
70 is
70.
70. Yes. Oh. 60 is 60, 70 is 70. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you.
That's the learned portion.
That's a learn. No, I'm telling you, when I'm in the office and I'm dealing with a Spanish client, sí, ¿cuál es tu número? 572 74 71. And I'm like, what? Like, what? 51 61? No, tell me, 6 or 7. Like,
Just whittle it down for me.
yes.
Whittle it
Number
down.
by number, please. Un caimán, ¿verdad? I'm dumbfounded.
I love it.
Nobody
That was the learned portion for you.
Yes, that was a learned portion for me. Un caimán y todo el mundo dice jicotea.
Jicotea y cocodrilo.
And my mom says when she sees a big toad, un sapo toro.
Because it is a bullfrog.
A bullfrog. It's a literal translation.
It's a little translation. It's a bullfrog. Sapo toro.
Anyway, so to our listeners out there, there's this documentary on HBO
Yes.
that we watched this week. And I just thought it was so... I wanted to bring it up in conversation because I thought it was so, I don't know, relevant to the times we live in, but it's relevant in how irrelevant social media really is or how fake it can be.
With that said, make sure to follow us. Like our pictures, comment, help the algorithm.
So there is this documentary
Tag your friends.
on HBO called Fake Famous. And
It was really good.
so it is about how
It's a social experiment.
it's a social experiment on how social media, and we all know this, we all know that social media accounts can be fake,
At best, curated.
but to the extent that it could be fake. Because, for example, I mean, let's be honest, we all curate our social media. I mean, I'm only going to put a picture of me where I think I came out good in.
Right.
Right? Like I have a very, and I've said this before. Like
I
in
do
my
too. Even though
Instagram-
you say that's not true about my Instagram.
I have a very particular aesthetic that I like. I like
Right.
for it to be vivid. That's why I don't put memes.
Right,
I don't put. I like pictures to be centered, or I use a rule of thirds. Like that's my aesthetic. So. Yes, you can make the argument that in that sense, my Instagram is not organic, right? And I put pictures that like I think I obviously came out good in.
Right.
In the
You
summer,
apply a filter,
in the summer,
you-
I like to put blue, like pictures that have to do with like water
Are
and
you
all
serious? You've thought this much through?
that. Haven't you seen my color coded Instagram?
I've never really thought
There's
about.
hashtag Darien Blue theme.
I
I have a
never put this
hashtag
much thought.
Darien Blue theme. In the summer, I like to put pictures that are blue that have water in them. Yes.
I just year-round post all those
Darien
pictures.
Blue theme. But that is my thing. I'm very like, I have an aesthetic, right?
Right.
That I go for. You just go for gym shots and selfies and
Lots of topless pictures.
I look cute today
It's
and
true.
I don't own shirts, right?
I know.
It's all our thing, right? But I think, we all sit and laugh and like, oh, you do this and you do that.
But that's more curated. That
Right.
is, that's that you put a little thought into it.
Right.
This documentary pulls the curtain back way more.
Right, but these are people that have become influencers, and it's completely artificial. Right. So, in the documentary, they got 3 people, right? And they were very careful on who they got. They tried to get...
They had an audition.
Right, they had an audition. They tried to get, like, not middle-of-the-road people, but people that had a small following on Instagram, and people that wouldn't, be... you wouldn't feel threatened by them. You wouldn't feel like they just seemed very like middle of the road.
Malleable.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And a great example is like there was this one person who she was like an opera singer, and they purposely did not choose her because they're like,
she's gonna have an opera following.
that's a talent that is
Right.
going to automatically just it's going to skew the experiment.
So they sort of gave these people not a huge makeover, but they glammed them up a bit, and they started putting them in like artificial situations. Like in LA, for example, there is the inside of a plane that you can rent to make it look like you're flying in first class, and it's
not
like,
even first class in a private plane is what it looks like.
in a private plane, and it's like they said like $50 an hour.
Yes.
Right. And then one of the things that blew my mind was
the whole spa thing blew my mind.
the thing where you can be like in let's say a picture in a mural of, let's say, a tropical destination of the Cayman Islands,
right?
You know, and you got a toilet seat.
Oh yeah,
and
like you're in a plane,
right? It makes it look like you're in a plane.
That
and
blew my mind.
These are all things that people have done, right? So. But
and then they have them like the girl, and again, it's you can tag anything. The one girl, she was like sitting like in somebody's backyard in a pool, and they were like Four Seasons.
Right.
You know,
and it was nothing. And then they got like an old plastic kiddie pool and they filled it with water and put roses in it.
Yes.
Rose petals. And they, she kind of like
they angled her.
They used it as a backdrop. So it made it look like she was in this expensive spa. My favorite was, or one of my favorite moments was when they showed this girl that she documented this whole like upscale vacation that she took, like world tour.
The Bali?
Yeah, that she went to Bali,
IKEA.
And she did the whole photo shoot at IKEA.
Yes, I love that. No, but she did that. Like, she was somebody who purposely.
No, yeah, she did it on purpose.
Yeah.
She did it on purpose.
She wasn't like found out.
But anyway, the point of the social experiment was to show that, which is something that we knew. We knew this happened, but this was
like documented. It was
this
documented.
pulled the curtain, right?
Yeah.
How these Instagram profiles were completely made up. The followers were bought. You could buy followers.
Oh yeah, they bought 7,500 followers for like $120.
Yes, they bought followers.
For the record, all of our followers are organic.
They bought likes. They bought comments.
Yeah, everything.
Right.
Everything.
And what I thought was really interesting was that when these three individuals they picked for the documentary started getting attention, how it affected each one of them differently.
Yes. I'm going to say, though, the blonde guy, Wiley, first of all, I'm sorry your parents named you after a cartoon coyote. But, you know what? Él tenía mucha ansiedad and mucho hesitation. Pero cada vez que he was posting something, tenía las nalgas afuera. Okay, so you know what? You don't have that much anxiety.
Well, but the thing... But his argument was that...
Also, the one friend of his who was just like, "What's going on? You have so many bots. They're Russian."
Right, but I think that was a troll, not a friend.
No, he said it was a guy that he kind of knew from back in Atlanta. And so, but I was like, "¿Y qué te importa a ti?"
What was interesting was how the other guy, like he didn't want to be. He rejected it. He's like, "This is not who I am. I'm not going to do something fake."
He screwed up the whole experiment.
Yeah, he kind of screwed up the whole experiment. But the girl was totally like, Okay, I'm in for it.
Well, because she's an aspiring actress. So in her mind, you could tell that she didn't lose herself. But in her mind, I think that she was just like, you know what? This is another role. I'm playing the role of influencer. Because you would see her. She was like, when she would interact with other influencers, and she was just like, yeah, these girls are another level.
I've always, we both have. We've rejected that term influencer.
Yeah, even though Lucy tells us to embrace it.
So, look, I understand because technically in what we do, we're influencers. Technically. But, that's not our mentality behind it.
I think it's also different because we are actually putting out a product.
Yes, right.
Right? Like, for better or worse, let's call a podcast a product, right? And it's not just about, like, look how pretty I am, or look how fabulous my lifestyle is.
Right. When it's not.
When it's really not. When it's a toilet seat, in front of a screen.
Right. And so it's called Fake Famouses on HBO. It's
really good.
What I thought was really funny was the whole thing with the pink wall.
Oh my God, you read my mind. We need to, next time we're in
LA. We need to find a teal wall here in Miami and let's hashtag make the teal wall happen.
Yes. Okay, listeners, let's figure this out.
Wynwood needs a teal wall.
We're going to figure this out.
Because nothing is more Miami than teal.
True.
You know?
And you do it in Wynwood where there's all the art, all the
We
art
need
on
a
the
teal
walls.
wall. Screw the pink wall. We need a teal wall. So whoever's listening to this, dale. We'll go help you paint the wall.
We will. Get on it.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole thing with a pink wall.
We need
but
to go there, by the way,
though?
next time we're
But
in
you know
LA.
what, though? But then I was thinking about that. It proves its point. That it's a stupid pink wall that has no significance, and
It's
I
a Paul
thought
Smith
that, and
store.
you thought that,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, next time we go to LA, we totally want to go to the pink wall, like,
Right. Yeah.
so it's like it's circular because we will fall into it like everybody else.
But I think, okay, not to defend us, but I think you and I right now are also about the pink wall because where we are thinking from the perspective that we're thinking is more like, okay, we'll go and we'll take the pictures and we'll post it on the Instagram for the show, and that'll help us.
gram.
Well, but that'll help us, get more attention, potentially more listeners. So, like, I would not seek out a pink wall on my own, but I would do it for, and I know that sounds like a cop out, but I would do it in service of the show. Self promotion. Listen, if you're not out there self promoting, nobody's gonna do it for you.
No. I don't disagree, but I think that that's how a lot of people fall into the whole pink wall thing. That they
See, Ten Come Mierdas did it, and now everybody has to do it.
exactly. It kind of blew my mind too when they said that half of Kim Kardashian's Instagram followers are fake, are bots. And the whole economy and logistics behind it, how like Instagram, all these social media platforms get to brag like, oh, we have all these users and we have this much engagement, so they're not necessarily going to hunt down the bots.
It's not in their interest,
Right, it's not in their interest, and everybody's making money.
Yeah.
So okay, so this section here is our section of Pero Politica ish. Cue in the clown music. Okay, so we're having a section. A lot of people have asked us about Pero Politica. So this is like the political corner of today's episode, but it's not really political. It's like shits and giggles. That's why I asked you to cue in the clown music. Cue in the clown music. So, okay. I want to talk a little bit about QAnon.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. Because this is great. This is amazing. No, not QAnon, but we're going to talk about QAnon. So, I didn't know this. I did not know this. So, I think we've all heard about the crazy QAnon conspiracy, and we've all predominantly heard how people that are in QAnon or believe in QAnon, whatever that is,
right?
Because nobody's really sure.
Well, they take orders from Q,
right? We're not,
but nobody knows who Q is.
Right? Is Q like Charlie?
It's even more confusing. There's a character from Star Trek Next Generation named Q.
And then there's Johnny Q.
Right. So, I mean, there's just a lot.
Johnny Q had great hair for a cartoon. He did. He did have great hair. Is it Johnny Quest?
Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest. But Johnny Quest,
Bravo is the one you're thinking
but
of.
when I think of Johnny Quest, I think of the Q. The Q is very heavily.
It is
very big in the name, right?
Yeah, because it's Johnny and then the big Q and then
right. Because I'm thinking of the Q
yes.
with the little.
Yes.
Anyway. Wow. I bet you no other podcast is talking about Johnny Q this week.
Nope.
No, and we're not talking about a freestyle singer.
No. Oddly enough, the only letter they didn't use.
Okay, so back to QAnon. So we all know that they believe, the ridiculousness that
They've basically built it so it's perfect.
Yeah, that the Democrats and Hollywood are stealing children to put them in sex trafficking rings, drinking their blood, and it's headed by Oprah Winfrey and Tom Hanks.
I mean, that makes total sense to me.
That's one of my favorite parts.
But they basically they've made it so that their whole raison d'etre is that it's like we're against child sex trafficking, and then if you question them, it's like, but why are you questioning us?
Right.
Are you pro sex?
Right.
So they've built a perfect little circular thing because you can't really like who's against saving children, right?
So what I'm going to mention now, I did not know.
Okay.
So, and I did some research about it this week.
Okay.
And when I did the research, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk about this on the podcast. So earlier this week on The View, there was a lady who was an ex-QAnon believer, follower, whatever you want to call it.
Member.
And she, she obviously had an awakening, and she's like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like literally. She even started crying on The View because she's like,
she kept ordering from Wayfair, expecting the children.
Yes. All these boxes from Wayfair.
She's like, damn it, none of them are liberated.
Right. So that whole wafer thing. I mean, to listeners who hadn't heard, one of the QAnon conspiracies was that when you would go to Wayfair and you would order certain
Sheds. It was sheds.
and lamps.
Oh, lamps too?
Lamps,
Okay.
and I think sofas, when you would order certain items that were very expensive and had like what would be human names,
Right.
you were really buying children to be sex trafficked.
Right.
So I was saying like, gosh, I would be so upset if I freaking buy, the Madeline chandelier, and when it comes to my house, there's a kid in a box. I'll be like,
it's a little French girl in a blue dress with a yellow hat.
I'll be like, this is not what I ordered. It's like, who believes that? Like, who believes that? And we had many people, and I remember there was a follower in particular that we had in our podcast that was all about that life. Pero bueno. So anyway, so this person from The View, this lady that they interviewed, was saying that, one of the things that QAnon people believed was that the world was going to end prior to Biden being inaugurated.
Okay.
So she got like ready for doomsday.
Oh,
right?
she became a doomsday prep.
Right.
Okay.
She had been following QAnon for months. That's why she started to cry, because she says that during the months that she was following QAnon, she totally neglected her daughter, and her daughter was like 5 years old. She's like, I would pick up my daughter from school and put her to bed because I'd be like hours and hours and hours on her phone with QAnon and looking up QAnon conspiracies and all that stuff. So she started saying how they all believed that Biden was never going to be inaugurated, right? So because the world was going to end. So she's like, well, I want to be with my family and my daughter when the world ends. So let me get
sleeping,
ready.
so right.
So she was like, oh, when Kamala Harris got it, inaugurated, she's like, okay, we're running out of time. Like,
then J-Lo sang.
Yeah.
And she's like, TikTok. And then
right.
Garth
And
Brooks.
Like, okay, so Joe Biden sang. I'm sorry, Joe Biden. Joe Biden got inaugurated. Joe Biden got inaugurated. She's like, the world didn't end. And then it's like, okay, well, what happened? I woke up the next day and I heard the birds chirping and like, okay, isn't the world supposed to end? So it was that and other things coupled that kind of
woke her up.
So these are the things that I did not know. According to QAnon, Donald Trump is going to be inaugurated as the 19th president of the United States. Go with me here. As the 19th president of the United States on March 4th. So they expect on March 4th for Donald Trump to be inaugurated as the 19th.
So in like 3 weeks.
As the 19th president. It's like, damn it, we are getting to episode 200 if it kills us. And QAnon is not stepping in our way because we were not able to have a 100 anniversary party because of COVID,
Right.
A world pandemic. So we'll be damned if QAnon gets in the way of our 200th party.
Episode,
Right? So you are not ending the world, QAnon. But anyway, March 4th, Donald Trump is going to be inaugurated as the 19th president.
Now, why 19?
Now, you're probably scratching your head.
This is not a 60-70 thing, right?
You and our listeners, why 19th and why March 4th? Okay, there's a reason.
I'm more curious about the 19th, but okay.
Let's talk more first about the March 4th.
Okay.
So now, for the last 60, 70 years.
It's going to happen right before 305 Day.
I know, right? The day before 305 Day. We have plans on 305 Day.
Yeah.
You're not ruining our plans, QAnon. Anyway, not today, QAnon.
Not this year.
Okay, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh at this bullshit. So anyway, March 4th is because January 20th has been the presidential inauguration for about 60 some years.
Okay.
The presidential inauguration was usually March 4th or the first few days of March because before, back in the old days,
They waited until winter was over.
well, not only that, but it would take them forever to move across country, have a whole cabinet.
Just the logistics.
The logistics, there wasn't any technology back then. So bringing in a whole new administration and all that took months.
Right.
So during the Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt administration in about 1933, I believe, he changed the inauguration date from March to January 20th because now by the 1930s, we already had phones and we had more technology and the Industrial Revolution had happened. So now, people could get there by car, by train. So getting to DC and bringing in a whole administration was much faster, right? So they changed it to January 20th. So it could be closer to the election date, right? So that is the March 4th. That's why they're going with March 4th. Now the 19th president. This is my favorite.
Is
part
it because the because of the March 4th thing, the last president was the 18th?
No.
Okay.
It's better than that.
Oh, better.
It's amazing.
Okay.
So the reason why it's the 19th president, I'm really holding back to like not crack up, because during this week, after I learned this and studied it, I've said it to a couple of people, and like I crack up telling people. So I'm gonna do my best to hold it together.
Okay.
So the reason why it's the 19th president is because in the 1870s, 1880s, I forgot what year exactly, the United States left the gold standard. Now, for those of you who don't know what the gold standard is, in the past, the American currency, the US dollar, was based on the gold reserves, what we have in Fort Knox. That is the gold standard.
Right.
In the 1870s, 1880s, during the Reconstruction era, the United States left the gold standard. So, according to QAnon, ever since the United States left the gold standard, the United States has really been a corporation. It's been a corporation. And every president that has been elected
Has been a CEO.
Has been elected during the corporate years of the United States have been illegitimate. So, according to QAnon, According to QAnon, the last legitimate president was Ulysses S. Grant.
What?
Ulysses S. Grant. I was thinking when I heard that, I go, well, maybe they're still in the birther movement of Obama, or maybe they're against Bush versus Gore in the Supreme Court.
Right? No, babe. No, babe. We're going
Ulysses S. Grant.
When they say we're taking it back old school, they meant it.
When I read that, I was like, this is amazing. Like, it's tragic and sad. Tragic and sad that there's millions of people who believe this. But it's amazing. It's amazing that it's crazy.
Lo que yo no entiendo es, like, I wish I had that much free time on my hands to come up with this type of bullshit.
Ulysses S. Grant. He was a Civil War general.
Because the amount of time to come up with all of these theories, because that's the thing with all these conspiracy theories, right? Is like you ultimately have to ground it in something.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't just say like, this is going to happen because we say so, right? Because that's insane. No, you have to tie it back to something.
So when we're looking at our presidents, President 18, Ulysses S. Grant.
So wait,
16. So 16 is Lincoln, 17 is Andrew Johnson, then it's Ulysses S. Grant, and then it's Donald Trump.
So wait, so does that mean that when Trump, according to them, when Trump comes back on March 4th, he's going to switch us back to the gold standard? Because if not, then he's not going to be the 19th
That's a good
president.
question. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
By their own logic.
Right. I'm not sure. I need to research more in the...
Please don't.
The wacky...
Please don't, because you're going to get some type of weird-ass algorithms.
No. You can punch me in the face.
No. I'm just saying, you're going to get served some weird-ass ads.
I don't believe a single conspiracy theory ever.
At all.
That's why it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. Maybe it's because I went to law school, but I believe in evidence and facts. I don't know. I always have. Call me crazy.
You wacky person.
Call me crazy.
You wacky person there.
But yes, Ulysses S. Grant. That is amazing. Amazing that they believe that there are people who will sit down and tell you in your face very seriously that they believe that every president after Ulysses S. Grant has
Do you
been
know that I
illegitimate.
wouldn't even know how to respond to something?
No, you can't.
That?
You can't engage.
Because what do I even say?
You can't engage.
You just kind of nod your head and go, oh, okay.
No, there are certain
That's
things.
it. You just kind of nod your head.
There are certain things that you just don't engage with. Like, you can't, because as I say, you can't engage with such craziness because whatever it is you're going to counter with, you're going to counter with facts.
Right.
Right? And you can't counter you can't counter lies and foolishness and craziness with facts. You can't counter it with anything, only with more craziness and foolishness.
Right, and they can take a turn and keep explaining things away based on other crazy things they say.
Right.
So
So
you're never gonna end.
Yeah. Ulysses S. Grant. Man. So those 16 years that FDR was president meant nothing.
At all.
The only president to serve 4 terms. So who passed the New Deal?
No one. There is no New Deal. It's all a dream.
So wait, was Kennedy even murdered? Like assassinated?
No, he's with Tupac.
Oh, okay. And Elvis, because Elvis didn't really die.
Right. And Marilyn.
Right. Because, Marilyn didn't really die either.
Right. And all the children from Parkland.
Oh, yes.
And Sandy Hook.
Because those things didn't happen either, according to them.
They're all on that island.
Yes, according to them.
They're all on that island.
All of that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't like this thing. Wave it away.
But when you see things like that happen and people believe really crazy things, like seriously, you think, okay, there's always, there's all types of people. So there's always going to be crazy people that believe crazy things, whether it's because of ignorance, lack of education.
Before it was the loon on the corner with a sign saying repent.
Right. Well, no, because but you can make the argument because look at Jim Jones in the late 70s, early 80s, that hundreds of people died.
But his movement started off as like he literally went in and started helping like the underserved and the underprivileged. So it went off the rails. It went batshit crazy.
He brainwashed them and have them drink Kool-Aid with arsenic.
Right, but what I'm saying is that started off like I've listened to podcasts about Jim Jones. It was like he was a community leader. He helped underprivileged people learn how to apply for grant things like that.
But even if
I'm saying at least he started from that. These people are starting from the deep end from the beginning.
But what I'm trying to say is that even if he started doing
good intentions,
good thing, I don't think it's good intentions.
But bueno, let's say
I don't think it's good intentions. But even if he started doing things that are quote unquote good, right. There comes a point that a rational human being is going to be like,
you have to take a step back.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're crazy. Because I could be, I could work with the kindest person that gives,
everything to everyone,
is giving to charity and doing noble things, that if I hear them talk about this bullshit, I'm going to be like, yeah, and I'm taking 10 steps back. Right? You go on with your bad self over there. But what I was trying to, the comparison I made with Jim Jones is that in Jonestown was that was like, we look at that and we're like, how can hundreds of people,
right? How does this happen?
Hundreds with an H have fallen for that they even gave Kool-Aid and Kool-Aid
right.
and
it was
arsenic to their kids, and they all committed suicide, right? How can hundreds of people do that, right? Hundreds. We're talking here about millions of people.
Well, it's also easier to do things online now.
No, but
recruitment is easier online. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I my problem is that I kind of see these things through my lens, and I'm like, I don't fall for none of that shit.
No, right. But I'm saying it's easier to reach people now, so the numbers are going to be bigger.
I guess. I mean, but then again, it's personality driven because again, here, even in conversations that we've had in the podcast, like you've told me like things about this and that, I'm like, I don't believe it. Like, I don't believe anything.
You don't believe anything.
I don't believe anything.
I don't. Anything about anyone.
I don't. Unless you show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. I'm not going to believe it. Like, but yeah, it's really crazy. Ulysses S. Grant.
Why not?
So all these years, all these presidents we had to learn in American history and in civics. Pa qué?
Total.
Pa qué? Oh. Anyway.
But you know what you have seen and heard?
What?
With your own eyes and ears.
Dime.
The talent of this week's guest.
Yes.
So that is true.
Yes. I've seen it with my own eyes.
And heard it with your own ears as well. Yes.
My senses have been...
So that falls under your evidence theory. Yes. So
yes.
This week we have Broadway actress Andrea Burns. She is a Miami native. She's Venezolana, or half Venezolana. And the reason we're saying this is because she starred on the Broadway musical On Your Feet, which was the story of Gloria Estefan's life, Gloria and Emilio. And she played Gloria Estefan's mother. And honestly, she was a trip to talk to.
You know what?
She was great.
And it's not because she's our guest, but I think that if you go back and listen to when we talked about Get On Your Feet, that is actually my favorite part.
When she does Mi Tierra?
When she does Mi Tierra.
Yeah.
That is my favorite part.
Yeah. Well, I told her that. That
is my favorite part.
And she was fantastic. And, it's times like these where it's like, damn you, COVID. Because, this is the type of interview that I would have loved to have, flown to New York and, done a couple of interviews or whatever. She was an absolute doll. I will say there was some glitches with my end of the audio. So just, bear with it, guys. But thankfully, her part of the audio is 100% perfect. And so without further ado, here's, local girl turned Broadway diva, Broadway star, Andrea Burns. me tell you. Bueno, mi gente, as promised, we have with us today a woman who is fantastically talented. And I'm not just saying that because A, she's from Miami Beach, and B, because I've actually seen her on stage when she originated the role of Gloria Fajardo in On Your Feet on Broadway. So we have with us the fantastic Andrea Burns. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrea.
Buenas. I'm so happy to be a guest. Pero let me tell you.
But you were born down here in Miami Beach.
I was born in Miami Beach, but I was raised in South Miami, like Kendall. And then I went to New World School of the Arts when it first opened. So that was like a big...
You are not that old
What?
to go to New World when it first opened.
Bueno, you know. Listen, I take great pride in that. I take super great pride in that. It was an amazing place to be for those of us all over Miami, you know, interested in the arts, and to be able to go to high school with everybody who loved the arts was just such a gift. It was a production to get to school. And of course, classes started at 7:30 in the morning, but I loved it.
So
yeah.
I'm gonna probably massacre this, and full disclosure, I saw this on Wikipedia. It's attributed.
Yeah.
It's a quote attributed to you. I don't know if you actually said it because Wikipedia is a grain of salt. But
yes.
Is it that I think it says something to the effect of that you're a Venezuelan Jewess who was born to be on Broadway or something to that effect? Like,
bueno, close enough.
First of all, that's like the best quote I've ever read in my life. Like, I'm not gonna lie. It's just like
thank you.
But
yes.
How old were you when you were like, this is what I need to do with my life?
You know, I was very lucky to have that direction very early on in my life. My father was born in Brooklyn and raised in the Catskills, and my grandfather on that side was like in the full Borscht Belt tradition. They loved theater. My father especially loved musicals, so he'd always be showing me all the old movies. So I fell in love at an early age with that. I learned early, you know, that I could sing, and that was something that I loved to do. But the fact, like tying it together with stories, like in musicals, that was like what I wanted to do. So the good news is I had that direction. The bad news is like I was in Miami where people were like, Broadway? You mean Broward? You mean Broward? Right. Your dream is to perform in Broward? No, Broadway. ¿Qué es esto? You know, so although Miami had an amazing music scene, amazing dance scene, Miami City Ballet, like, you know, but theater was just not. Now we have like Actors Playhouse. There's like a lot of stuff going on down there, New Miami Theater, but then there was nothing. I went to a performing arts camp. I found it in the Little Miami Herald. There was an advertisement. I was 11 years old, and it was a performing arts program in the Catskills, which is where my dad was from, but my aunt still lived. It was like half an hour away from my tias. So my parents were like, you can go there because she's right there and whatever. It was called French Woods. And I went there from the time I was 11 till I was 16.
Wow.
It formed and shaped me, and it was an incredible place to be.
No, it's interesting to me because, as you know, somebody who I've always loved, you know, musicals and Broadway and just that whole world. And like you said, in Miami, it's not necessarily, at the time growing up, wasn't a thing,
yes,
so to speak. You know,
for sure.
We still didn't have the Arsht Center, so there was really no touring shows coming through. I mean, they would come through, but you know, so I always want to ask, like, what was the first show that you felt was really like it hit you?
Well, there's like different things. It goes on different levels, right? Like I remember my parents taking me to see Sandy Duncan and Peter Pan at the Jackie Gleason.
Wow.
Like, and Peter Pan is so like not necessarily my thing, but it was a full professional. It was like a Broadway touring. So my mind was blown by that. But then as I got older, to the ripe old age of like 11, and started going to camp where they were doing shows, they would do all these productions, and they didn't care. They were giving you full adult themed,
Really?
Complicated, divorce musicals, you name it.
You were doing
like
Company
all
at
these.
11.
You're not kidding. No, for real. For real. So I saw a production of Sweeney Todd when I was 11 years old. Now, remember, it was performed by probably 16 and 17-year-olds, and I thought it was the most brilliant thing I had ever seen in my life.
That's it. You were hooked. You were like, this is what Broadway is.
Hooked, baby.
This is
Yeah,
it.
because I have great respect for all kinds of musical theater, but I was never like a, 42nd Street, like, we're in the money and we're all just like
Right.
tap dancing and happy the whole time. I couldn't believe that you could do musical stories that had like depth, pain, character, richness. I was like, this is real? Like you can do this? So that's why I really fell in love with Stephen Sondheim and Hal Prince, who were at that time, they were the pioneers that were doing that. They were the people that were just breaking walls and doing things. And I was like, I gotta go. I gotta do all the musicals. I gotta go to New York and I gotta meet these people.
So you've been a part. You've been a part of several productions. You've been a part of. So you've done your fair share, and I think most people will probably start to from I think In the Heights. Where you originated
Yes.
the role of Daniela, the hair salon
Yes.
owner. Again, like I said, Gloria Fajardo on
Yes.
your feet, and there's something to be said about you bringing a certain authenticity to these characters. And I say that again as someone who saw your performance. Little
Thank
side
you.
note, it was actually, I lived in New York for a couple of years. Y da la casualidad, right when I was about to move back, my DJ, my co-host, actually went up to help me move back. And on my last night in New York, I went to see On Your Feet
Stop.
on Broadway.
Oh my God.
And to say that I walked out of there, and I may start getting a little teary-eyed right now. I think somebody's chopping onions. But as I walked out of there, seeing, the story you guys were bringing to life of that Cuban-American family that, as a Cuban-American, I can relate to that. Walking out of that theater, I was like, damn, my goal was always to live and work in New York, and I did it, like they did it, like so many others, of us Latinos, and your version of Mi Tierra, oh, woman.
Thank you. I can't tell you how much that means to me.
I'm just saying right now. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. That means a great deal to me, because you can imagine somebody growing up in Miami and the daughter of a Latin parent, like what kind of a burden singing that song is. It's literally someone hands you, the national anthem pretty much, or, and I knew it's a song that's important to so many people. And so it was hugely important to me. Thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot.
And so how did you, I would say let's backtrack to Daniela, right? How did you get involved with that production? You literally originated the role.
From the beginning, yes. From the very first time, they were like, we want a peluquera in this, neighborhood. Yeah. And I did not know Lin-Manuel or Tommy at the time. And somebody called, and they were doing like, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days of a reading, which, in the theater industry, a lot of times, it's obviously expensive to like always put on a whole play or production to be able to try out what things are. So they do these things called readings, which you think is just like sitting around a table. No, it's like 2 days of like, you learn the music, you stand up, you're never memorized. Because during the reading, a lot of times they're like, oh, that song, I thought it was better when it was on paper, but scratch that. And you are basically the template, the guinea pig. You're trying on the material for the writers. I didn't know them at all. They were doing, it was only the first act, but Lynn Juris, who was the book writer, this was the first time that Lynn had now there was a book writer involved, because Lynn was doing everything at first. And she was really into like, we have to extend the barrio, Usnavi's the star of this play. But really, the barrio is the star of the play, really which is what made it so magical and what made people connect to it in a way that was universal. Right, these are the people in your neighborhood. So she was like, we need a peluquera, and so they asked me to. A friend recommended me for this. She was like, you're gonna die. These guys are so talented. They're young. They're hungry. They're incredible. I was like, all right, well, give them my number. I had just had a baby, so I was like, oh, okay, I'm home, like doing nothing but like holding a crying baby.
I got 2 days.
I got 2 days. Have them call me. And I went in there, and right from the beginning, I mean, we didn't know the songs, so Lin-Manuel was singing us all the songs. Just from the beginning, him doing the opening number, it was like, what is this? Obviously, he has such an incredible sense of showmanship, and he also understands and respects and loves very hard the tradition of the, old school musical theater. And the Jewish sensibility of writing that, like that's like a part of his heart that he adores, but he's a Latin man infusing all of his stuff in. So I felt like I had met a kindred spirit. There's nobody like us. I never met a Latin person who loves musical, right? So, right, totally. So we were doing that, and but at the time, it was very Puerto Rican, Dominican neighborhood, which is not the same as a Miami Cuban neighborhood. So everyone's in their very like New Yorican dialects and everything. And like my line is coming up, and I'm like, I don't know, what do I do? Do I adapt this like Rosie Perez kind of thing that like people around me are doing? But I was like, if I'm playing a peluquera in a Latin neighborhood, I'm sorry. I grew up in Miami. There's like 14 I can call to mind that are perfect for this. And so I remember thinking, like, will they get it? Will they think it's over the top? Like,
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen. But in the end, I bet on what was authentic to me. I don't know. One of my first lines, I don't know what it was. Vanessa, I'm thirsty, coño, tráeme la cosa, whatever.
That is your first
And
line. I've heard the
yes,
cast album enough times.
yes. And the whole table fell out. And they were like, oh my God, you are my tia. Or a lot of the Puerto Ricans, you are my titi, like they were all like, oh my God. And so that was the beauty of that show, is that we kept recognizing each other, our families in each other.
Yeah.
Before it became this like huge Broadway sensation, remember, we were the first audience.
True.
So we're sitting there going, oh my God, or that music reminds me of this, or how is it that you can put a freaking piano montuno and make everyone sing to it? Like, there's a scene I'm getting very nerdy and inside now, but there's a scene in the club where all the men sing, Vanessa, let me get the next one, Vanessa, ba, 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 ba. Exactly. And I'd never heard that except like on a piano or on a trumpet. Do you know what I mean? I was like, you're allowed to do that? What is happening? This is like the freshest thing I have ever heard. It's so exciting.
He's either a genius or insane. It's like
right. But guess what? But from the beginning, I was like, if he's insane, he's my kind of crazy. I'm in. I was one of the, older, more seasoned members of the company, because so many people were making their Broadway debut, were very young. And in fact, I had an opportunity I was offered a Broadway show at the same time that In the Heights was moving to off-Broadway. And it was a tough decision. And it was actually being directed by one of my heroes, Hal Prince. But these are my people, and this is my heritage, and it's being communicated in a way that is so pure. Even if it closes in one night, I have to be a part of it. I have to be a part of it. And, it ended up being the best call I ever made. Very fun, very creative times. And, tying this into On Your Feet and just my whole trajectory. Then we go back to the teenager in Miami who's like, oh, I love Miami, but I just want to get out so I can be around people who do Broadway musicals. And the fact that I have made the biggest impact I have made in the Broadway community is representing the people that I grew up around in Miami. Yeah. It's deep. It's profound.
That's impressive, because I think every actor wants to be their authentic selves in every character they inhabit, right? Because otherwise it's not believable, right? But the fact that you got to be your authentic self almost like on another level, because it was like,
yes,
you were bringing a whole community along with you.
Correct. I mean, correct. I won't say every actor strives to be truthful and authentic. Like, as an artist, like, I can play an axe murderer. Like, I don't have to be my authentic self axe murderer, right? But I have to be able to get in and relate to it. And that's the challenge when you're doing things that are a stretch. But when you walk in there, you're like, I'm sorry. So I have to walk in here and drink a cafecito and do a little chisme, and like, are you kidding? And speak in Spanglish. This is my job. It's like I have all of the skills my whole life. I've been a ethnically ambiguous type of person. So everyone's like, what are you? So I've done a lot of different things, and not because they weren't really incredible. I did all the things that were out there. The only theater game out there, Evita, West Side Story. After that, it was like, I hadn't really been doing stuff like that. And so people thought I was Meryl Streep when I came out there speaking in Spanglish. They were like, your dialect work and the layers of authenticity. I mean, how long did you research? I'm like, please. I was just doing my mom's house on a Friday night, please.
That research is called Kendall on a Saturday night.
For reals. For reals.
But so speaking of Kendall, I guess that's as good a segue as any to On Your Feet.
Yes.
So I know that this production had been in the works for a while, because I remember, again, as a Miami boy, it's like the law that we have to know everything that's going on with Gloria at all times.
HRH, Her Royal Highness,
yes, Her
Gloria
Royal Highness,
Estefan.
Gloria
Yes.
Estefan, at what point did you become involved? Because I know you were part of the initial Out of Town in Chicago.
As far as musicals go, and this is why it's exciting to do Broadway projects with people who are already global superstars, in my experience, it was a very fast trajectory. It was like reading, a workshop, a thing, Broadway. Whereas In the Heights took like 8 years to get to Broadway. That's what people don't know. But this is like, Gloria's like, I want to do a show on Broadway, and the investors are like, yes, So it was fast. So I know there was one right before me, a reading. But then they called me, I came in and did it. And at the time, I was very like, Gloria Estefan's mother? I was like, are you freaking kidding me? You know, and I had a friend who at the time was doing the workshops and playing Gloria. And I was like, we're like the same age. Why are they asking me? I was so like, what the heck is happening? And she had done it already. And she said to me, bueno, mommy, why don't you come and just do it for 2 weeks? You'll do it. You'll get to meet Gloria. And you don't have to commit to the project, but you do get the amazing Mi Tierra number. That's when I was like, okay, that's all she had to say. I just was like, what? I sing Mi Tierra? Yes. And, they're building it to be this huge, amazing scene in a club in Havana. I was like, done. So I went and I did the reading. Usually you do a reading or two, and then it's like a year before you get to a workshop. No, this was like they did a reading in the summer, and then they said by October they were doing the workshop. It turned out I had a conflict with the workshop. I could not do it. I had another play. I had to make a Sophie's Choice decision the way I did with, and I was like, ultimately, I wasn't, even though I loved Mi Tierra, I just wasn't sure about what that part was going to be. And I had an opportunity to do something so different. I was playing Judy Holliday, and it's something so absolutely different, although very connected to my Jewish roots, by the way, but something so different than this that I said, somebody's giving me the opportunity. That's what an artist does. I'm like, I want to go stretch. I want to do something different. Yeah. So at the time, the director was like, oh, so you don't want to do this? I said, I didn't say I didn't want to do this, but I'm going to go do this other thing.
Right.
And you do you. And if you find the perfect Gloria Fajardo, and that's great. And if you don't, call me when you get to Broadway. And lucky for me, they called when we went to Broadway. And so that was so thrilling. And Emilio and Gloria were super involved. It was just amazing because you forget, besides the fact that they're, such icons, first of all, they're the nicest people. Second of all, they're like your family. They're, you know what I mean? It's like your Theo and Thea are running rehearsal. It's like incredible. And they're consummate musicians. Oh my God. So like it's really exciting. Like when you're working with Gloria at one point was like, let's go in the other room. I want to work on Mi Tierra with you.
Oh.
I was like, okay. And we're talking, and she's like talking to me about the rhythms, and I'm like, okay, I have to ask you a huge favor. Is it okay if I tape this? Because I can't hear anything you're saying to me right now, because all I'm thinking is Gloria Estefan is talking to me and she's teaching me how to sing Mi Tierra. And that's all I hear. My ears are going, wow, wow, wow. She was so cool. She was like, oh, of course.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Plus, I think it's also great that all three leads were from Florida. Just say.
Yes.
All three of you were
Isn't
from
that
Florida.
crazy?
You, Anna, and Josh.
Josh Segarra. Yeah. Yes. Isn't that incredible? So of course, so many of us, but I was, there were only some of us. And Henry Gainza, he was one of the mariachis. He's like a MVP vocalist in the thing. He's also from Miami. So and also of a certain age. So there were a couple of us that were dying when we were in Chicago, and they're citing things like Mayfair, Club 1235,
yes.
We were just super cool.
Mambi, super cool,
right?
All of it. When that, oh my God, you could tell in that Broadway theater when those things would come up, you knew where the Miami sections were because
Correct.
They were cheering about it. They were
because they were cheering
on Y100. It was okay.
Yes. So yes, and I actually came to the opening night on the Miami National Tour in Miami for the National Tour at the Arts Center. They very graciously invited me, and I was there, and I was like, "This is my dream come true." Is to hear a Miami audience respond to everything in this show, because as much as the New York audiences loved it, they didn't get all the references that we die over. So I'm so glad you saw it.
No, I say this all the time. It was the perfect cap to my time in New York to end that night seeing that story. Is that yes, now they're international global superstars, but there's a humility there.
There was one time, this is the kind of person, she was doing an interview, she was on a press line, my parents, because she knows what it means, right?
Yes.
So she's and she tells the interviewer, excuse me for a second, so she can go say hello to my parents. You know what I mean? Because she knows what that's going to mean to them, what's that going to mean to me, que belleza de alma. I just can't say enough.
You've been doing theater for a bit now. Unfortunately, last year saw with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we can just end it there. Last year saw COVID, and it affected everything backwards and forwards. And I can't think of a community that's been harder hit than the theater community across the board, even though, there have been lots of virtual events and awarenesses, and the show on NBC that was to donate to, I think, Broadway Cares, if I correct.
Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. Yeah.
I know you're involved with
Yes, the Actors Fund, and I'm involved with all of them. I'm involved with Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. I'm involved with the Actors Fund, which is kind of a misnomer because it's for all entertainment professionals, in America. It's called the Actors Fund of America, but it's like anyone who's been hit by this. Like, you think about, of course, you're like the actors and the actresses, but like, what about the makeup artists?
Yeah.
What about the wig makers? What about the voice teachers? Like, there's all these people that you don't think of that are behind the scenes working so hard to prepare everybody. You're not going to be on doing makeup virtually. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a little hard.
So those charities, yes, are very important to me, and actually gave me a great sense of purpose during all of 2020, starting in March. One of my best friends is a gentleman named Seth Rudetsky. He's the Broadway host of Sirius XM Radio. He was one of my first friends in New York, and he and his husband, James, began this incredible thing. The minute the shutdown happened, they called me up. They're like, you want to do a living room concert in your house? Like, let's just do this and we'll give money to the Actors Fund. Do you have any famous artifact or something, a souvenir that you've hung on to that you want to auction? So, and they started doing these shows out of their house live, bringing their friends on. They brought on the CBS chief medical correspondent. His name is John LaPook, for COVID updates. But of course, you realize like here's this incredibly renowned, accomplished New York doctor. P.S. He's a Broadway fan, of course. So he was like, oh yes, I'll totally do it. So there was just all of this, and they were doing shows, and it turns out then they would start hosting people, and it became like a talk show. Ultimately, they were doing so many that they were burning out a little bit. And so they said, will you be like the older people will get this reference, the Joan Rivers to our Johnny Carson, will you come and take over? And I did Andrea Mondays. I took over Monday nights for the summer, and also it was just such a joy. You realize that creators have to create. You want to invite people on that are like dying to just sing, share, do their thing. But also there's so many audiences that love the theater that now are like, wait, I don't get to go. I don't know what my favorite actors are doing. So it was very joyful. Yes. So I spent a lot of time very actively. The name of the show is Stars in the House. It's still on starsinthehouse.com. They do shows every day. So, and they raise money for the Actors Fund. But then during the summer with our social reckoning, we switched to NAACP. Like, it's like wherever the need is, it's been an incredible time of connection, even though we've been so separate. Creators indeed have to create. And the latest thing I've been working on, my husband is a director. He was part of something called Plays in the House, where every Sunday they would do these reunions of Broadway cast doing plays on Zoom. Yeah. Plays, not musicals, because it's too hard to do musicals. And so, everyone's like in the square boxes and everything, but like at the time it was like, that was all you could do. Right. So, and then everyone started doing it. And then it's like, if I have to go on one more Zoom, I'm going to kill myself. Nobody wanted to see that anymore. So now it's like, and not just Broadway, a lot of the regional theaters, yes. Like your own Actors Playhouse, you're like, what are they doing? Yeah. Like they have to stay alive. So I got Coral Gables. Yeah. Yes. So I got contacted by a theater called the George Street Playhouse, which is just outside of New York, that does a lot of wonderful theater. And sometimes they come into New York with off-Broadway and Broadway shows. And they said they were going to do their season virtually. At first they had the hope that they would do like small audiences, So they were doing one-person shows. Oh. So they were like, this is a play. It's called Bad Dates by Teresa Rebeck. It's just one woman, single divorced woman talking about, she's a very prolific theatrical playwright as well. And so this is one of her plays, and it's just about this woman from Texas who lives in New York, who has a 13-year-old daughter and is just trying to like find love again. All of the dates that she goes on. And she also has like 600 pairs of shoes and all of her stuff. So it's very, very fun. And because of now people are starting to go to work, but the COVID protocol, let me tell you, it's super intense right now.
It's no joke.
It's no joke. And so very wisely, they were like, okay, one person show. They have a beautiful theater, but they were like, we're not going to do it in the theater because to even get the amount of crew to build the sets, still too many people. So they decided to go, what if we shoot it like an incredible patron of the arts and a donor of the theater. Her name is Sharon Karmazin. She's like 4-time Tony Award winning producer. Was like, I'm in Florida. Of course, she's like in Palm Beach for the winter, snowbird. She was like, my house. Why don't you film the scenes? Why don't you film the shows in my house? Because she has a big, beautiful home. My play in particular takes place in a woman's like bedroom. She invited us to shoot this thing in her home. And the very special thing about it is because they wanted the COVID pods to be as small and safe as possible. My husband is an acclaimed theater director who's directed there. So they hired him to direct, me to star. And then what's new for them is they are now hiring people to film and do cinematography. Well, my 17-year-old son is a film student. And he is a very passionate young filmmaker. You can check him out on Instagram at Hudson Make Movies.
Proud mama.
Yeah, please. And you know, he's such a mix. His name is Hudson Raphael Flynn. Okay. That's like all the pieces.
He should just become a soap actor. I mean, with that name, like that's
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, the head of the theater, they're like, we've been following him on Instagram. We know he like really does this. Like, would he be interested in filming this? So we all moved out to this huge home in January and created this family project, which was to film this play in a medium that's never been done before, right? Because if you make a film, then you change the script to be adapted to a film.
Right.
Or if you film a play, you're actually on the set of the stage with the lights and the audience, and they're filming it. So this is like this hybrid thing that nobody's ever made, that there was no rules. And we had to have the very small crew that was like, we spent January working on this thing, and now it's coming out on February 23rd. It's going to stream for about 6 weeks. Yeah, so we're very proud of it. So you can check that out.
Where can our listeners find it?
GeorgeStreetPlayhouse.com. And yeah, you can check it out. And you know, it's very funny and fun because of course the thing is, you know, we all need a little lighthearted. Yeah. So it's a comedy, but it's also poignant and beautiful. And even though you can't see them on camera, you'll know it's a family affair.
Bueno, Andrea, I thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with us. Like I
love that you invited me.
Everything I imagined and more, you know, I love one of the things we love to do is obviously spotlight, you know, Hispanic Latinos who follow their dreams, who are really doing something. And, you know, like I said, there's a personal element to speaking to you just because of your portrayal of Gloria Fajardo, but we also love to see when, you know, local boy, local girl, you know, makes good, quote unquote, as they say, right? You know, fulfills their dreams. Right. And there's a certain pride in us that does come out seeing people like yourself, you know, achieve their success. And so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And it's my pleasure. You know, all I had to know was that there was like 2 Cuban guys with a podcast named Pero. Let me tell you, I was like, when do I sign up? But thank you. It's beautiful getting to know you too. And I hope our paths cross soon again. But thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
And we're back.
She was so great. It's so funny because we were talking at one point. I actually edited it out. We started talking about like old Miami, like clubs and bars and all that. And yeah, she's just
Casanovas.
Yeah, she's a Kendall girl.
Yeah, she went to Casanovas.
She grew up in Kendall Lakes.
Yeah, she danced to Clave Rocks.
Yeah, for sure,
definitely. For sure. I'm sure she saw Expose at Casanovas at one point or another. Or at Town and Country Mall.
Or, you know, one of the umpteen reunion freestyle concerts that have happened since then.
Yeah, no.
Like us.
Yeah. So, what I love about our Expose experience is that we've seen Expose in their later years more. Like, you know, Expose was a little bit before our time.
That's,
you know?
Yeah.
It's not like we were going clubbing when Expose was.
That's true. That's true.
You know, into the top 40. But yeah, no. Get on Your Feet is. You know, I try to see it from an unbiased way. And also, I'm not a big musical person or Broadway person, but it was just so great. Yes, so great. Yes. And I loved when you and I first saw it the first time.
In the previews on Broadway.
Like, I felt like, oh my God. Like, we have to get out and tell the world, like...
The awesomeness of this show.
You know, no offense, Hamilton, but you guys have to come and see Get On Your Feet.
Yeah, and she's also worked with Lin-Manuel. You know, she was in The Heights. She originated the role of Daniela. So, you know, and again, I told her the story of how you and I saw it, like my last night living in New York and all that. And she was great.
Awesome. Well, we're thirsty.
We certainly are.
Thirsty. So I'm going to go first today.
All right.
And I'm going to go a gasless Coke.
Oh no,
a gasless
soda.
And I'm going to give this.
I feel like I think I know who you're going to give it to.
I'm very upset at this person, and this is to show people that even if they are a Democrat.
Oh, okay, so it's not who I thought you was.
No, even if they are a Democrat, when you do shit, you
call
deserve
them
to
out.
be called out.
You call them out.
So my gasless
soda,
I'm going to give them the Beverly.
Oh no!
Whoever knows the significance of that,
not the Beverly.
I'm going to give it to Andrew Cuomo.
Andrew Cuomo, okay.
Andrew Cuomo, because Andrew Cuomo, as many of you may know, is the governor of New York, and as we know, New York was one of the places that
one of the epicenters,
one of the early epicenters of COVID, and I mean, we don't have to go into detail as to everything that occurred in New York. And Andrew Cuomo was very much seen as the hero of this, and he was praised by how well he handled it and his news conferences. Like, there was a point that Andrew Cuomo would every day give a conference as to what they were doing about the coronavirus, that his press conferences were getting more viewership than the ones coming out from the White House.
Right.
And people were like looking to the governor of New York for more of a guidance than the president and the White House, right? And all this was going on, and he was very much praised, including by me. I thought, I was like, man, this man should totally run for president in 2024 or whenever as a Democrat. He is a Democrat. He is a liberal. But it has come out that Andrew Cuomo and his administration were fibbing.
Oh, no.
On the numbers of people that had passed away in nursing homes. They were underreporting it.
They were underreporting.
Now,
were they underreporting?
They were underreporting by a lot.
Is it because the reports were not coming in cohesively?
They were underreporting.
Or they just decided?
They were underreporting.
Okay.
Right. It wasn't like, 1,000 people died and they reported 960 people died.
Right. Okay.
They were underreported by over 15,000 people.
15,000.
15,000. Wow. That's a lot of people. And if they in fact were underreporting purposely, and it was they had intent to misinform the American public, then he either needs to be investigated or he needs to resign, because that is some very serious bullshit in a very you're talking about a global pandemic, and especially when the world was looking at you. Because he very much became the face in terms of our leaders.
Yeah, one of the
one of the biggest face, and he would constantly come out on CNN, on his brother's show, Chris Cuomo's show, and they would kind of like be laughing and ha 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 ha, and this nonsense was going on, and if it was your parent or your family member who was in a nursing home and died alone, a lot of these people died by themselves, you would be really offended and really upset about this. So that shows that I don't care who you are, and I don't care what political party you are from. If you do some foolishness, you know what? You need to get called out.
You're our very own Billy
Andrew
Corbin.
Cuomo, I'm going to throw a gasless soda at you.
Our very own Billy Corbin over here.
Yes.
No sacred cows.
Yeah. Hey, there's a few things I disagree with Billy Corbin about, but Billy Corbin, on the most part, is on the money.
But he sticks to his guns.
He does. I mean, I give him credit for calling people out the way that he does. Yep. As I said, there's a few things here and there that I disagree with him about, but that's okay. We love Billy Corbin.
We're people. We're allowed to disagree. So I'm not going to do a gasless soda. I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I was actually listening to one of the multiple podcasts that I listened to, and the guest was Robin Roberts, from Good Morning America. And what I loved about her interview is something she said about, she is unapologetically optimistic. She is unapologetically a positive person, and she does not feel bad about it, because it's not that she doesn't recognize that there's suffering in the world, look, she's a black lesbian who went through cancer, right? She knows there's bad and suffering in the world, but that she actively has to practice like that positivity and that optimism.
And she is a very positive person.
And she's a very positive, every time you see her, it's just this very like ray of light almost, like very happy. I don't want to say happy go lucky, because that's not true.
And I feel
but she
like
she looks like somebody who's gone through experiences and has still said, you know what, I'm going to choose positivity. Right. I'm going to choose optimism.
And there's something very calming about
Yes,
her.
calming and very, very authentic and very, genuine. So I just love that. And I think, last year especially, but even into this year, sometimes people being optimistic, being positive is not the easiest thing in the world. But you know what? You have to work at it. It's like anything else.
Yeah, because the problem with positivity is that positivity can come off as dismissive.
Right.
Yeah. And, when you say to somebody who's going through shit like, oh, everything's going to be okay and all that, it's like sometimes it can be like, but you're not listening to me.
Right, right.
But at the same time, yes, you do need that balance because then it's all doom and gloom.
Right.
It's a fine line.
Yeah. So Robin
that's a good one.
Roberts and Cuomo.
And Cuomo, right, but she's getting a nice, crisp, refreshing soda right out of the machine.
He's getting a Beverly that's been left in the sun.
Yes. Without gas. So that shit is going to taste like tar.
If they're lucky.
With that said, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently in the 46th president of the United States. As I always say, there's been 46 presidents. Joe Biden is the 46th president of the United States. How many presidents have there been?
45.
Very good. Why?
Because Grover Cleveland
I have taught you well.
Was president for 2 separate terms.
2 non-consecutive terms.
Thank
So
you.
he is considered 2 presidencies.
Right.
So nice little fact, right?
Yes.
To throw at people.
It also helps that, it's one of my favorite Muppets.
Grover Cleveland.
Grover.
Oh, Grover. Near. Far. Exactly. I still have that Grover.
Aw.
Yes. So I believe that Joe Biden is the 46th president of the United States, just like I believed that Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States. And I can go all the way back.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I can. I'm not going to do that now because that's going to take forever.
Right.
But
right.
with that said,
people want to go about their day. They want to get out of their cars.
Said, and I don't really care if my dollars are based on gold. As long as it's a good number in my bank account, that's all that matters. Nobody's going to argue the gold value of it.
You're right.
Nobody's going to be like, where is the equivalent to that in Fort Knox?
Oh, yeah, as long as the check clears, I don't care.
That's all that, exactly. That's a
don't
good
care.
way of ending the show. Yeah. So with that said, we hope you all listened, laughed, and learned. I feel there was a good
chunk
of
that.
Remember to grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito. And thank you for joining us, everybody. That was episode 144. Everybody have a great weekend. Happy Friday, Pedo Friday. And see you all next week.
Yep, cuídense mi gente.
Bye.
Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lamleplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.